Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name's Dylan, and I'm an independent games designer who also streams on Twitch. And last Friday, I had the opportunity to interview Ray from Studio 85, which is a game development studio in Brazil. Just last week, they released their new game Farm Break onto Android, and I fell in love with this game. In our conversation, I really learned a lot, and I think Ray gave a lot of awesome pointers for independent games designers of all types. And I really recommend downloading Farm Break on the Google Play Store and playing the game for yourself. So here's the interview. So yeah, I'd really love to know, I don't know very much about Studio 85. I'd love to know, just a background on how you guys got started and what your development process is on a high level and what your role is at the studio.
First of all, we are a multidisciplinary team composed by 6 members. And we started developing our own IPs for mobile and PC 2 years ago, I think. I'm not so good with remembering that. And it started on Game Jam. Call it Game Jam Plus. It's pretty common here in Brazil and also in other countries. And then we thought that why could we start with a indie studio, and then we started with Studio 85 and became a good thing for all of us. And on that same Game Jam Plus, we started with the Farm Break, and it is our first published game and that kind of stuff. And you asked for, I don't remember the word in English.
Okay.
But when you asked what I do, what we do, I am artist and also overseas business director. So sometimes I have to see the art and also do the marketing, that kind of stuff. For a indie studio, everyone has to do a lot of things.
Wow, that's very interesting because art and business sound totally separate. I've never heard of someone doing both those things.
It's pretty common here in Brazil. We need to, for example, Vinicius Lima, I think he is here, and I think you know him from Twitter. He is also do the marketing, but he is our game designer, and he created a lot of these levels that make me crazy when I play Farm Break. I don't know if you feel the same.
Now I know who to blame.
Yeah, and Carlos Emmanuel is also a artist, but he also look for the market, so that's pretty common here. And for all the members, yeah.
So, how do you personally balance that between all these different responsibilities?
Actually, it's a lot of conversation and organizing. We use, for example, the Trello. I don't know if you know that feature. Yeah. And we started, for example, Hayani. You can speak English, so you will talk with people overseas and be our business director, that kind of stuff. It looks very amateur, but it's how it works for us. And we are involving our system. And I really forgot. I'm nervous, guys. Sorry. There's a time that I don't speak English, but it's how it works for us. Yeah.
I think that's interesting because the people in this community that mostly are indie devs themselves, many of them work alone. So I think they can really relate to what you're saying about wearing all these different hats and doing all these really different things. So I think they totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. I don't know how it works on your country with the market, but here in Brazil it's quite hard, and we don't have so many people that works with the market, and sometimes we really need to study don't know what to talk. Sorry.
Okay, so you're basically saying that like there's not as many people in your country that are in this industry or working with this market.
Yeah, it's involving. I don't know. Increasing. I remember the word. It is increasing the market.
Gotcha. Okay. One thing I was curious about, you said earlier, you said that your studio started with Game Jam Plus. So I guess how long was that Game Jam that you guys were working together on?
It was about 58 hours, I think. And when we needed to create a game, that was not just a game, but I think that we can sell it. So we need to think all the things. For example, the benchmarking was very important, pitching the game for the sellers and that kind of stuff, because we already participate with other game jams, but they are not like Game Jam Plus. So that's when it started the feeling to really do a indie studio.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. That's really interesting that you started as a game jam and then you kind of grew into a company. I almost wonder if does that impact the way you make games, like starting as a game jam where everything's frantically thrown together, like does that somehow influence the way you do business and the way you operate or anything, or?
At the beginning, influenced it so much, but we start to think that it was not very good, because it was, I don't know if that word exists in Korea, crunch.
Yes.
And it's not healthy for us. So we started with the business hour. So example, as I said, I was lunching while I was watching your stream, but before I was doing some level design and that kind of stuff, really changing by the time.
Gotcha. That's something that I can relate to too, because if I'm working on the same thing for more than a couple hours, I start to get bored and like get less productive. Like maybe you have that experience as well.
Actually, we do sometimes, but we have the lucky to work with friends. So while we were bored, we start talking, and that motivates us to keep working. And it's like a family, but a good family. And yeah, and it keeps us motivated.
Awesome. This sounds like a really fun place to work.
It is. I love being with them.
Awesome. So I'm really curious about this original game jam and how you came up with the idea for Farm Break. Like, and you said you were looking for something that just wasn't a fun game, but also was something you could turn to a business. I'm really curious, like, how developers think creatively, but at the same time think about business. So I'm just curious in general, how did you come up with this idea for Farm Break? How did you settle on it?
For us, we always start with the benchmarking, looking for the mechanics and that kind of stuff. It's really important for all the devs that want to make money. So we started with the mechanics inspiration by Tomb of the Mask Color, Amaze, and also House Paint. And then Carlos Emmanuel, our artist, had the idea of a farm. And then we started with other ideas. For example, Vinicius, remember the film Chicken Run? I don't know if you watch it. Yeah, and I remember a book that I read that was Animal Farm from George Orwell. So why not Pigo has to prove his rebellion during all the pigs' teeth? And that's when Farm Break was born.
Interesting. So you can at least partially say that your game was inspired by the George Orwell novel, right?
Yeah.
That is insane. That's awesome.
I really like this book, so I was thinking, farm? Why not Animal Farm? And here's Spiegel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when you came up with that decision with the mechanics and the theme, did the art style just fall into place? For example, I figure you can make this same kind of game in a 2D world. Why'd you go with the 3D? Was like how what was the development of this art style in general?
At the Game Jam Plus, we were with two 3D artists, me and Daniel Cavalier. So there was more 3D artists than 2D, and we're joining our forces to make that game. So let's go with 3D.
Got it.
And then it was better for the animation and also to make the level design. It was easier for us. Yeah.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Someone just asked in the chat, is the whole team full time on Studio 85?
Yeah.
Cool. I answered that question. Another question that was asked earlier is how many releases did you have leading up to this one? Is that a question that makes sense with the development of your game?
Yeah. But Farm Break is our first release. On for example, Google Play Store, sorry. But we have other games on itch.io and that kind of stuff. But for us, we consider Farm Break our first one.
Okay, gotcha. Are you looking to release on iOS at some point?
Yeah, we really are. We are looking for some publishers because here in Brazil it is hard to publish on iOS because there we need to have a lot of money and we don't have it. We
Okay.
are indie studio, yeah. So we are looking for a publisher.
Cool. I kind of like the idea of releasing on one platform anyway because you probably learn a lot from releasing on, and that you can use that knowledge for the other store, right?
Exactly. We for talking with other publishers, we need datas to give them, and we only had the benchmarking, and that's not a good thing. So with this data from the Google Play, now maybe we can release on iOS. I don't know.
Gotcha. And actually, that's a word that I'm not familiar with. Although I'm sure the other people in the chat are. When you say benchmarking, do you mean like looking at the data? Is that what you mean by benchmarking?
Yeah, it is the data from other games that are already in the market. For example, if you go to Sensor Tower, here's a good tip from a dev. You can use Sensor Tower or Any. There is a lot of data from different games, but I'm saying just for mobile. For PC, there is Steam Guard. I think no, not Steam Guard. Steam Spy, and it's very good when we need to see which game is which game is popular. Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining it to me. That's really interesting.
You're welcome.
What's kind of in that vein of you released on Google Play and you can use the data, but also the knowledge you learned to maybe apply it to the App Store. Is there anything that you've learned from your release on Google Play, whether it's the design or the player reaction or feedback?
For example, at the beginning, Farm Break has a music, and we're like, we will publish with the music, and we said no, we're not. And then a few players were like, there's no music, we want music, and that kind of stuff. And from the level design, we were worried that they were very hard or very easy, but people love it, and they say about the progress of the levels, and we are very happy to know that. And that kind of stuff, it's really good to talk with people that also play your game, to have all these feedbacks. So please, guys, play our Farm Break and speak with us. We are open to all your feedbacks.
Nice. I'm gonna share the link in the chat again if anyone wants to download. Yeah, so that's one thing when playing the game that I was really blown away by is the level design, because I started out in the industry. My first job was as a level designer, and so when I played your game, I was blown away by the level design and the progression of the levels. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. One thing I really like about the gameplay itself is the way, like, and you're kind of talking about how you might have been worried that it was too hard or whatever, because I like the balance between strategic puzzle gaming but also the action oriented reflexive kind of gameplay. I'm wondering how you balance that in the game. How did you decide upon the difficulty and the progression of the game? Did anything inform that?
We started with our hand. So with a note, we were drawing the level design, and with a few days, after days, we started with the system. And I don't know if I can share this, but I already am. We started with the system that we decided which thing would be harder or not. So we are 6 members, as I said, so we were testing with us. Someone will make a level design, and then other one will test it, and we're going to feedbacks for us. And we started with this system. I really don't know if I can say it perfectly, but it's always a study. I don't know. I'm not a good level designer. Sorry.
Okay. Um, so was it all in-house that you tested, or did you use real players or your family members or friends?
We use it on family and friends, and before the pandemic scenario, we were going to events, and we tested with the public, kids, adults, you know, all kind of people, and we are always getting feedbacks. That's really important for us. And we open on a beta too, so a few people could play and send us feedback, and we keep it up, making levels with that kind of stuff.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Was there anything you learned specifically from these kind of play testing with people at events and families, friends? Like, was the initial reaction that these levels are too hard, these levels are too easy, or was there just lots of little lessons together?
Actually, there was a few kids that were finalizing some levels too fast, and we were, oh my god, are we dumb? And yeah, but actually it was different people thinking, so we couldn't guarantee that was so easy. And a thing that I learned, it is sometimes it is scary to talk with people, but we need to. From in our area, it is really important to talk with people, to hear them. All the critics, don't be angry if someone says to you negative things. Try to get better all the time. We will hear sometimes on good stuff and not so good stuff, but it's part from the dev area.
1 second, I heard I'm hearing double sound. Okay, I think I fixed that. If you're in the chat and there's anything wrong, let me know. I think I fixed the problem. That's really awesome to hear. I think that message is really awesome for us indie devs to hear, that you can't be like too protective about your game. You know, it's a game you're making for other people. So one thing specifically about the level design that I really loved is that each level is broken up into 3 stages. I'm curious, how did that idea come about?
Actually, do you know, like, the games that have you have 3 lives, and then we thought that why not you had 3 levels. we prefer to use one level with sub-levels, to use the ads based, because our game is ad based with the banners and the videos, and we are not like to push all the ads for the gamers. So it was better for us to use the ads on the revive and, for example, double coins. If you have 3 stages, it's easier to apply that than 1 stage. So that's where it came from.
Cool. That totally makes sense. That like the monetization and getting people to watch ads, that makes sense. That the 3-stage works better. But I also thought it was super interesting because I felt like by breaking a level into 3 stages, you get to explore level design in a really unique way. Like each level has like it kind of builds. It has this like little progression moments, and I felt like it impacts the progression in the sense that it's like rising across the level, and then you get a little reset. Like I just thought that was a really unique level design experience that I don't think I've seen really myself anymore. So I just wanted to like say that I really loved that from a design perspective as well. Yeah.
Thanks.
We
are really happy with that.
Nice. I think that's something that I'm going to take as going forward in other mobile puzzle games that I make in the future. Like this is going to be an option to me now. Like, oh, do I want multi stages? And so I think that was just something really unique about the game.
Our level designers are screaming with happiness.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm glad. I'm really curious about the obstacles in the game. So I'm only on level 20 here, but I want to keep playing, obviously. And I've seen that there's like portals ahead, and people keep telling me like, "Oh, wait till you get to level 30. Like that's where it's gonna get really tricky and stuff." So that keeps me want to keep going. But I'm really curious about how you decided upon the order of the obstacles. I believe. I forget what the first obstacle was. I remember the bombs were pretty early. How did you decide how to? What was that?
Sorry.
What'd you say?
I can't hear you.
No. Oh, you can't hear me. I'm 1 second. Let me. Oh.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Okay, thank God. Things keep going wrong, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Why is it going wrong? So I'm just really curious, how did you decide upon the order of the obstacles?
It's all with the progression. So we started, I think it was with the spines, the blue ones, and then it's all to keep the player. I don't know the word. I don't know if it is busy, but it's not busy. That I want to say. It is entertained. I don't. Yeah, with the obstacles, there was not a planning with, for example, I will put it on that level and then that level. We all want to get that feeling of progression, but I can't explain exactly how we did it.
Gotcha. That totally makes sense because a lot of stuff's happening on such a high level in our minds, and it makes sense. You can't scientifically say exactly why you like pick the order. That makes sense. And I really like that you mentioned the spikes. I loved seeing that obstacle so early because it let me know like right off the bat. I was like, oh, this game isn't just like a strategy like turn-based game. Like oh, there's like a timing element involved that is really punishing if I do it wrong. But it's also not too punishing because it gives you like a second and a half to move out of the way. So I really liked that obstacle came first, like you said.
It's for us really important to the player to understand that timing. It's also a big thing on Farm Break. The animations are. We think about the animations, for example. If the player goes here, the spines will appears, but he has 1 second to go for the other pixel, and then we all think about that. So when you play Farm Break, for those that didn't play yet, think about the time. The animations are really important to beat the levels.
That makes sense. That actually reminds me. So one of the first impressions about the game, as I was reacting to it live, is I noticed these little birds that you see on the screen, and so when you go past them or you hit them on the wall, they jump up. And so my initial reaction was like, okay, that's interesting. They kind of guide you about where to go a little bit. But then one of the next levels, I was introduced to the spike, and so I felt like the birds, even though they were cosmetic, they kind of let me know, oh, the things I do impact the things on the walls. So was that something that I'm guessing that's something you thought through, right?
Yeah, it's like a tip for our players. We use the birds to show them which path could be good for them. Yeah.
Interesting. I thought that was super smart. Someone in the chat is asking, have you considered publishing your game through publishers?
Yeah, but it's not so easy. We are trying to contact them. As you said earlier, we thought it was good for us to publish our first game without publishing on Google Play, and we are looking for publishers for maybe iOS, because then we could learn how it works, how can we get the data for them, and that kind of stuff. It's really the thing with the experience. We really want to experience it, the first publishing and the self-publishing.
That totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Okay, I've got a list of questions that I want to resort to really fast. I want to talk about you personally. Like, what got you into game design? Did you play games growing up? What was it that made you really interested in it?
When I was younger, I didn't have good health, so most of the time I was at home playing or watching cartoon stuff, anime, and that approached me for the game. But to be honest, my first option, I started with law. I don't know if it was law, I forgot the word. As a lawyer, not a lawyer, but I was studying to be one.
Okay.
And I look at it, it's not for me. I like art. I will try to go with games. And then I started with the university, and then I was not considering myself a good artist, but I was trying to keep studying and improve myself. I started with 2D, and then I learned about 3D, and I thought, well, it's time to people see my work. Actually, it was not for me it's not came from me. It came from my fiance, and he said, well, I don't know if I said the word right, fiance.
What was the word?
I don't know. Fiance? No, not fiance. It's, I don't know.
Oh, fiance?
My boyfriend. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and he also did the University of Games and said, why don't you publish your art? And I started with a portfolio. And here's other tip. Don't be shy to show your art. Don't be shy to show your games. Show to the world what you have. It's really important. So make yourself your portfolio and publish. And that's how I found my friends from Studio 85. They saw my portfolio and asked me to go to the game jam, and it was one of the best experiences in life to go with them and start creating games and showing the world my art. So really, don't be shy. Do a portfolio and publish.
Awesome. That's a really inspiring story message. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, I want to break that up with a funny kind of question.
Okay.
So you all started Studio 85. What went wrong with the first 84 studios?
Actually, Studio 85, it's a thing with our cell phones here in Fortaleza, Brazil. Our DDD, I don't know if it's the same in your country. It is 85, so our number is plus 55 and then 85. So everyone is from Fortaleza, and we want to show the world a little of Fortaleza. Then Studio 85, it's here.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that you named it after that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let me look at my list of questions. I have many more questions for you if you don't mind. Let me know if you ever have to break away, because I want you to keep working on this amazing game. I don't want to, take too much time. Was there... Oh, sorry.
Cavalieri show us on the chat how it works here. So that's why 85.
Gotcha. Very interesting. I never knew that. So back to the game's development. Was there ever a huge problem? What was your biggest problem that you've faced when developing the game, design-wise or otherwise?
I think
I'm guessing the pandemic might have been a problem a little bit.
Yeah, it was, but we were working at home, so it did really well, and we are liking that kind of stuff. Home office is nice for us. But I think the harder things for us was to decide if you were going to keep up with the mechanic or not. Because at the really beginning at the Game Jam Plus, we started with a different mechanic. It involves math. So we didn't know if it would work, and then we choose to change all not all the mechanic, but how can I say, a little of that, and we choose to go with a casual game. And here's the farm break that you are playing.
Gotcha. So who would you say your target audience is? Because you said it's a casual game, which makes sense. But unlike some casual games, it's more skill-based in the sense that there's timing required and stuff like that. Do you still consider the core casual audience your target audience? Or do you think there's other elements of maybe more hardcore mobile gamers that you think you're trying to target as well?
I think both. But I could say that casual gamers are our main public, but we really want to see the hardcore gamers, who can finish it farm break first. It's really good to see that. And sometimes we, on the studio, we try to do that while we are testing the levels. So it's really fun. And yeah.
Nice. This is another kind of random question. I noticed when you're playing a level, after you lose it too many times, you can skip it with a video ad. Was that something that was debated? Because I think it makes sense, but was there ever a concern that you might lower the pressure to beat the pressure, or that players maybe wouldn't use coins if they know they can eventually watch an ad? Is there any limit on that?
We were thinking about the people that don't play usually games. So we were like, well, I think maybe it is the best choice, and also has a thing with the monetization system. Devs always think with money.
Right. That's what I was wondering. That totally makes sense to me. Because I was having my mom play it for a while, and she got stuck on a level, and I could see her not being able to progress at a certain point. So I think that totally makes sense with what we were saying about the target audience. I think that totally makes sense.
We want to make our audience happy to play the farm break and keep playing. So we thought about that that people, for example, my grandma, she plays that game and sometimes she gets stuck in and then she's that option.
Gotcha, it makes sense. Tricky Maze is asking, what marketing things do you use to promote your game?
Um, Actually, we have a problem with marketing. We're learning and we use the social media, the communities, Discord server, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Sometimes the family, I say, I say, please share my game, and that kind of
Right.
stuff. That's not a good thing to do it, but sadly we don't have a lot of money to use on marketing, and marketing is the one of the most things, one of the most important things on dev. So be careful with that.
That totally makes sense. I think that's something that we all relate to as indie devs. We're always talking about on our stream, like, how can we reach the casual audience without spending thousands of dollars or whatever it is. So I'm glad to hear that we're not the only ones having that problem. I'm curious, how many levels? Oh, sorry.
We are, how can I say? We are all amateur, a amateur studio. We are growing, so you are like us, you know. Don't feel like we are different. Don't be shy to talk with us. We are open to give you tips and that kind of stuff. We like to be a community that helps when we can. Yeah.
Awesome, and you can know that by the fact that you're here talking to us all. It shows like what you're talking about. That's awesome. That you, all of you are like that at Studio 85. I'm curious, how many levels? Oh, it's someone's asking. Matt, they're talking about like advertising campaigns on Facebook and Google. Is the only problem with that is you need a lot of money in order to do that effectively?
I don't know. I didn't know the question exactly. If there was a question or a tip.
So I think someone's like saying like maybe the solution to this would be to work with a publisher. But you said you wanted to kind of do this on your own at the beginning. Are you open to a publisher in the future?
Yes, as I said, we want to self-publish only on the Google Play to experience that, but we are looking for publishers on iOS because we don't have money to do that kind of stuff with the marketing, and you know, we really need help from a publisher. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I really hope that works out with the publisher because I know this game is going to blow up when you release it on iOS, and I think as a publisher it'd be crazy not to work with all of you at Studio 85, so I'm really hoping that works out.
Thanks. We really hope that too.
Cool. I know you guys are going to succeed at that. How many levels are in the game right now?
Right now it is 40, I think. Yeah, it is 40. But we are working, and if you already think Farm Break is hard, then you are wrong.
God.
Yeah. We are doing different mechanics. So prepare yourself.
Oh man, I could see that because the space you've set up with the strategic / action gameplay, I can't even imagine what all you crazy people are doing with the level design and obstacles. I'm really excited to see what you come up with next.
we were working on that. So after that interview, I am going to run to complete my work. I'm working at level now, so be careful. I'm a bad person.
So everyone be nice to Studio 85 on the stream, otherwise you're going to pay for it later. So I just want to just ask you a couple more questions so that you can go back in a good mood, back to working on the game. Do you personally have a favorite level or obstacle or anything like that in the game?
My favorite obstacle are the bombs. I really love them, and at the same time I really hate them. So it is my favorite one, and not only for the mechanic but also the art. It's for me, it's really cute. The bomb going, and then I don't know if you already saw it. I don't remember if I don't know, but
Oh, the bomb?
yeah.
Yeah, so I actually got the bombs open now, but I actually noticed after like 20 minutes of leaving the game open, here's a tip for Farm Break. If you leave the bombs going for like 20 to 30 minutes, eventually the bombs will run out, and it makes the level a little easier. But you have to be very, very patient in order to do that.
Should I talk that to my programmer or not?
Oh, so we're debugging the game right now. We're doing all sorts of stuff here.
Yeah. I will talk with them about that, but I don't know if they will correct or not. Because sometimes it's good to, when people find that kind of stuff on the game and they start giving tips for other, and I think it is a great thing.
Gotcha, nice. Mattman in the chat mentioned TikTok. Have you ever looked into TikTok as a way of advertising your game? Because one thing that makes sense about Everett Studio 85 is you talk about being very open, and it seems like, I'm guessing you all have really fun personalities from what I've seen from you all on social media. And the game, one thing I want to say about the game is it visually, if you look at the game, just a little video, you're immediately like engaged in the gameplay. I was addicted to this game for months before I even got to play it, for example. So have you ever considered maybe TikTok as an advertising market for free?
Actually, I will talk with guys. I didn't think about that because I'm not so used it with TikTok, but we can study how it works. And thank you so much for your tip, Mattman. I don't know, but thanks.
Yeah. So Mattman made a game called Hex Stars. And on the stream, we were looking through the comments on the App Store, on the ratings, and one of them mentioned, "Oh, thanks for making this game. I'm using it to blow up on TikTok." And we looked up their game on TikTok, and there were certain videos with like thousands of likes, and Mattman had no idea that was even happening. So that's kind of coming from Mattman, the person who actually found that out.
So it's really great to know, and maybe we will use it. Thank you so much, Mattman.
Nice. I just want to ask the chat really fast. Does anyone have any more questions for Ray before we let them go? What daily user engagement the game has is Tricky Maze? Is that a question you're able to answer?
Maybe I was able, but I don't have the data here with me. It is with other guys, so sorry. But follow us on our media and talk with us. Maybe they can answer you. I don't know if we're able to say that, but try to talk with us. We are really open, and we're okay to give you tips and that kind of stuff, and receive tips on always.
Awesome. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for having this conversation with us. I learned a lot personally. I feel like we all learned a lot. I love having these kind of conversations. When you go, I'm going to share the links to social media because I love following your social media accounts, and I encourage everyone to follow Studio 85 as well. And now I know why it's called Studio 85. That question has been bothering me for a very long time, so it feels great to solve that puzzle. So I just want to say thank you so much for having this conversation. This means the world to me. I'm so excited to see Farm Break blow up. I'm so confident in its design. I'm so impressed by all of it at Studio 85. So just thank you so much.
Thank you so much for you and all people on chat. We are really happy to know that you like your game, and keep it up playing. We will create more level design, and that's all. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.